All right, video intent here is to show how the backswing affects the downswing and how I would go about making changes. And then also helpful is, what lines would I be looking at? So I don't generally, look at the plane at address, but for this I'm going to, just because I want to show you the difference in how the early movement of the club head is going to affect the top of the backswing. So I'm also going to go to impact here, because what I really look at when I'm evaluating swings would be the impact plane. So I just kind of draw a line like that. So I'll go to the other video and do that as well. Camera's moving a little bit. It was a windy day in Texas. Okay, so let me just draw that just in general. Okay, so you can see those two planes are not going to be the same. Very rarely would someone be coming down on the address plane. So the video on the left would be the first video of our session. We're doing a drill here with the draw gate. You can see there's a couple balls here and here. The player was complaining of thin rights and fades, so we did this just to see kind of how it would go. And the swing that he started doing was pretty normal. So if I'm telling someone to hit a draw, a lot of times they're going to come inside like that. So if we go to first parallel, we can see the club head is very, very in, and it's a little bit shut. And so most likely from here, he's going to eventually start hitting some pull draws. So we did get the path more right and start drawing it, but how we were getting there was becoming somewhat alarming. So I'm going to delete that and keep going. So what I want you to pay attention to is as the club head gets inside the hands like this, likely the hinge plane, so when we're at lead arm parallel here, this is going to start to get steeper and steeper. And so I'm going to draw some lines here. So you can see we're already inside the golf ball a fairly significant amount. And as he goes back, this is going to get steeper and steeper, just like this. And this is a way to hit a draw, but at some point, there's probably going to become either an overdraw or just some poor low point control or contact issues. So we can also see that the face is getting very, very strong at this point. We can tell the face is strong because it's on the right side of the shaft. So on the video I don't think we're at the top of the backswing here. Let's go ahead and go. So there we are. So kind of shut and across. Upper mass is leaning a little bit left. You can kind of see this elbow starting to fly a little bit. And so there's going to be some consequences of that on the downswing. So here we are. This is just a few minutes later. And what we were really focusing on the video on the right was trying to keep the club head outside the hands a little bit. So when we were at this position, at least on camera, it looked like they were kind of in a straighter line. And then we were also focusing, we can see we have this stick on the ground here. We were also trying to keep this lead arm more parallel to that stick as a feeling. We obviously wanted to continue to rotate to the right on the backswing, but we just didn't want the hands to necessarily follow that same pattern of moving in this way. Because if the hands get deep, then you're probably going to get a little bit too far across. So as he continues, just because the lead arm is in a better position, now we're at this lead arm parallel, and we can see that the shaft, is pretty much pointing right at the ball, which we could say is quote-unquote on plane. Not the most important thing in the world, but for what we were trying to do, it definitely makes sense. And because his hinge plane is flatter, as he goes to the top of the backswing, now we can see that the appearance of the face is much weaker, even though his lead wrist is still nice and flexed. And the club is pointed in a slightly across position. You can see it's kind of pointed here, which is going to allow the shaft to still shallow on the downswing in a nice way. So we can see from here that's a pretty big difference in what that looks like. There was no mention of the elbows or the upper mass or anything like that. It really was just keeping the lead arm more parallel with a little bit of a flatter hinge plane. And so what the consequence on the downswing is going to be, and this is why it's so important to pay attention to your backswing, because if you get yourself in a nice position on the backswing, the downswing is just going to kind of fall into place, is what you'll see here. He just falls, the club kind of shallows perfectly, and it gets on that red line very, very quickly. You can see the shaft is already basically touching there. Where on this one, because he's across, the hand path is probably going to go out a little bit, and he's going to struggle to get down to that line. I mean, there's that same position basically, and it's much, much higher off that line. So can he hit a draw? Yes. There's probably going to be some contact issues. It was very, very easy to get the backswing in a better position, which was going to lead to a much more consistent downswing, a shallower downswing without having to try. So If I were you, I would definitely pay attention to these lines. It should give you some color as to where your swing is at the top and how it kind of affects the downswing. And always reach out to me if you have any questions. I would be glad to help.